the mission is pretty big. It was to a point where I know a couple of the old mission presidents. They told us that there used to be about 400 missionaries who used to cover the island, and they were from Tonga, but they would serve in different areas. I even come from a line of missionaries where my great-grandfather was a missionary in Tonga. That his family, he actually served family missionaries. Family missions. So pretty much him, his wife, and his kids were living in a different village, but as missionaries for the church. And so it's pretty big. They also had a lot of building missionaries, and that's my grandpa was a building missionary. And another thing is the church is widely known throughout Tonga. I believe it's more than half of the population of Tonga are actually members of the church, or at least were members of the church as well. There's a lot of reactivation work, but most of the I would say about 99% have come in contact with at least one member, and or even missionaries as well. They also have a temple in Tonga, but before they had that temple, a lot of the families would have to save up money and go to New Zealand. And I believe it was in the 80s that the Tongan temple was actually built, and that they have their own temple now today. Stakes, they have a lot of stakes. They have about, I think, 18 stakes in Tonga. And then they also cover other islands, but it's in the country of Tonga. So they have about 4 main islands. So they have Nuku'alofa Tonga, or they call it Tonga Tapu. Then they have Ewa, and then going a little bit north, you have another group of islands, and they call it Ha'apai. Then you go a little bit north, and there's Vava'u. And then there's 2 little islands that are way north, closer to Samoa, but still part of Tonga. And they're called Niuatop Tapu and Niuafo'ou. So they have a lot of islands, but all of those islands actually have a ward or branch located there. And I got the chance to serve in some of those areas too. The wards and branches and stakes, they have a lot of members depending on what area you're in. But mostly the main island, they have a good number, about 200 people going to the wards, to each ward. And the thing is, it'd be impossible for someone to say that they can't make it to church, because every village has its own ward building. And so, like, as soon as you walk into the next village, you'll most likely be able to point out the Mormon church or the LDS chapels that they have built there. And they stand as monuments in each village, and you'll know where to go. So that was another thing that, yeah, Sundays are silent. It was really a family day. People would go to church, and after church, you just go home. And they always had what they call umu, or like, you know, the underground ovens, and that's what people would go back and open those up, and they'd have food over there all the time. So that's what Sundays look like, pretty much: church, underground ovens, food. I've had a lot of family members talk to me about family missions, and how my grandpa received his name just by being born while his parents were on their mission. So yeah, they don't do it as much often, but it was a thing of the past where they would convert to church, and those were some of the missionaries that they had, were pretty much just young couples who joined the church, and they would be called as missionaries.